In the final days of the French monarchy, long before the blade of the guillotine fell upon her neck, Marie Antoinette, the most hated woman in France, was already being killed slowly, piece by piece, not by steel, but by humiliation, fear, starvation, and the crushing weight of a nation's fury. This is the story of what they did to her before death came, and why her final journey remains one of history's most tragic descents from royalty to ruin. The revolution that once began as a call for justice had transformed into a storm of rage, and at the center of that storm stood the former Queen of France, stripped of everything and held responsible for every misery the people had endured. But long before the executioner prepared the wooden platform, Marie Antoinette had faced torments that no queen, no mother, and no woman should ever have endured. When the Bastille fell, the people believed the monarchy would crumble in fear. But inside Versailles, Marie Antoinette still projected the poise of a queen. Outwardly calm, inwardly terrified, she watched the anger of the crowds grow each day. Rumors were already swirling, rumors that she planned to flee, that she mocked the starving, that she secretly plotted with foreign powers. Many of these stories were fabricated entirely, yet they spread through Paris like wildfire. Every lie made the queen's eventual punishment more certain. When the mob finally invaded Versailles on October 6, 1789, Marie Antoinette escaped death only by seconds. The revolutionaries burst into her bedchamber, stabbing the mattress where she had slept moments before. Barefoot, barely clothed, she ran through the palace halls as chaos thundered behind her. For the first time, she understood that the revolution had no intention of sparing her. Dragged from Versailles to Paris, she was forced to ride in plain view of an enormous crowd screaming insults at her. They made her stand beside Louis XVI on a balcony for hours, expecting her to bow and submit. She refused. Even then, she carried herself with the pride of Austrian royalty, but the people interpreted her strength as arrogance, and their hatred deepened. In the months that followed, the revolutionaries deliberately chipped away at her dignity. They watched her every move. They documented her every expression. They questioned her loyalty to France, to her husband, even to her own children. Slowly, the Queen of France became a prisoner inside her own palace, her golden world collapsing around her. Her greatest heartbreak came in 1793, when Louis XVI was taken to trial. Marie Antoinette begged for a chance to defend him, to stand at his side, but she was denied even that final act of loyalty. On the morning of his execution, she was not allowed to say goodbye. She heard the drums outside, the roar of the crowds, and then the terrible silence that followed. In that moment, the woman once known as the most elegant figure in Europe collapsed in grief, her children clinging to her as she trembled. From that day on, she was no longer the Queen of France. She was simply the Widow Capet, a title given to strip her of identity, rank, and humanity. But the cruelest chapter of her life had only begun. In August of 1793, she was taken from her children and transferred to the notorious Temple prison, then later to the dank, cold depths of the Conciergerie, the prison the revolutionaries called the antechamber of death. Inside its stone walls, the once luxurious queen faced misery on a scale she had never imagined. Her cell was small, wet, and filled with insects. The stench of mold and human waste clung to everything. The mattress was rotten, the blankets were filthy. Rats crawled freely through the walls. Light barely entered through the narrow window, and when it did, it showed her gaunt face, hollow eyes, and thinning hair, signs of a woman rapidly fading. But the physical suffering was nothing compared to the emotional torment. Her guards watched her constantly, day and night. She had no privacy, not even to sleep or pray. She begged to see her son and daughter, but her requests were denied. She begged for letters, but her words were intercepted. Every plea she made was twisted into suspicion. Every tear she shed was seen as a sign of guilt. They accused her of conspiring with foreign enemies. They accused her of manipulating the king. They even accused her of crimes so horrible that she reportedly fainted in court when forced to listen to them. The revolutionaries wanted not just to kill her, they wanted to break her. They needed her to be a monster, not a mother, not a woman, not a queen. So they isolated her. They cut her hair. They restricted her meals. They forced her to listen to the sounds of other prisoners being taken to the guillotine every morning, knowing that one day the drums would beat for her. The days blended into nights, and the nights into endless hours of silence and fear. Her health deteriorated. She suffered from severe bleeding, possibly from untreated illness. She brought herself to the window once, just to feel sunlight on her face, but the guards stopped her. Every small comfort was denied. Yet even in this darkness, Marie Antoinette refused to collapse completely. She began writing secret letters to her sister-in-law, expressing her grief and her hope. In those letters, she asked for forgiveness, for strength, and for the protection of her children, knowing she might never see them again. Her words were steady, regal, and heartbreaking. They reveal a woman stripped of all worldly power but holding fiercely onto her humanity. Finally, on October 14, 1793, she was brought into the courtroom of the Revolutionary Tribunal. There was no chance of acquittal. The judges had already decided her fate, and the citizens packed inside the chamber wanted blood. The trial was a spectacle, not a search for truth. Evidence was weak, testimonies exaggerated, and allegations included personal attacks that had no basis in reality. At one point, she was accused of committing unspeakable acts involving her own son. The courtroom erupted in noise, but Marie Antoinette rose to her feet and delivered one of the most powerful statements of her life. "I appeal to all mothers." The room fell into silence. Even her prosecutors could not help but hesitate. In that moment, even stripped of a crown, she commanded a respect that none could deny. But respect could not save her. After 2 days, the tribunal declared her guilty of treason, theft, conspiracy, and crimes against the state. The sentence was death by guillotine. When she learned her fate, Marie Antoinette showed no tears. She simply bowed her head in acceptance. After all she had endured, the blade was no longer something to fear. That night, she was returned to her cell for the last time. The guards refused to let her sleep. They paced, rattled keys, and whispered to each other, deliberately reminding her that the hours were slipping away. Before dawn, she wrote a final letter, a letter that never reached her daughter. In it, she forgave her enemies, prayed for her children, and declared her innocence. She asked them to stay strong, to hold on to their faith, and to never seek revenge for what had been done to her. It is a testament to the dignity she maintained, even at the edge of death. On the morning of October 16th, she was dressed in a simple white gown. Her hair was cut short to prevent it from interfering with the execution. Her hands were tied behind her back. For the first time, the once powerful queen walked through the prison courtyard barefoot, shivering in the cold air. Outside the gates, an open wooden cart waited for her, not the covered carriage that had taken her husband to his own death. This was a deliberate humiliation. The revolutionaries wanted the crowds to see her clearly, to watch the woman they blamed for their suffering. As the cart rolled through the streets of Paris, people shouted, spat, and cursed. But unlike her husband, Marie Antoinette did not cry, did not tremble, and did not bow her head. Witnesses would later write that she sat upright, calm, and composed, her pale face framed by the cold morning light. The crowd had come expecting to see a broken woman, a defeated figure crushed by misery. Instead, they saw a queen. When she reached the Place de la Révolution, the guillotine towered above her. The executioner helped her step down from the cart. She accidentally stepped on his foot, and even in that final moment she whispered, "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." Her last words showed more civility than her enemies had shown her in years. Moments later, she was placed on the wooden plank. The blade rose, and in a single instant her suffering ended. The crowd cheered, but history would not cheer with them. Over the centuries, Marie Antoinette would be remembered not as the monster her enemies painted, but as a tragic symbol of a world collapsing under the weight of revolution, a woman who endured humiliation, isolation, cruelty, and false accusations with remarkable strength. What they did to her before the guillotine, destroying her dignity, taking her children, stripping her identity, and subjecting her to endless emotional torment, was a fate worse than death. The blade simply ended what the revolution had already begun. Her story reminds us that behind every symbol of power lies a human being, capable of suffering, capable of courage, and capable of grace even in the face of unimaginable cruelty. And so, in the quiet corners of history, Marie Antoinette survives, no longer the queen who danced at Versailles, nor the villain of revolutionary propaganda, but a woman whose final days revealed a strength that no revolution could destroy,